So welcome to Jodala Fashion Guide. In today's video, we are going to be learning how to draft a 3-part corset with yoke and back waistline. These are the measurements you are working with. Shoulder to bust is 11.5, shoulder to under bust 15.5, shoulder to waist 18.5. The bust circumference is 40 inches, the under bust is 33, the waist is 35. The armhole depth is 8.1, making 8, and then nipple to nipple point is 8 inches, divided by 2, which is 4. We're going to be using 4 inches. This is our starting line. I've marked ½ inch here, so that we'll be able to impute the allowance for the shoulder line. If you do not add sewing allowance to your shoulder line, it is going to affect your armhole length. So always create space where you will add the shoulder sewing allowance. So I'll just say seam allowance. So the next thing is to impute the vertical measurements. The shoulder to bust. I'll start from the line here. 11.5. Shoulder to under bust 15.5. Shoulder to waist 18.5, and then we'll just take 22 as the length of the front side, because you are going to be having a back waistline. You can have more than that. So I'll repeat the same thing this way so that I can have a straight line. 11.5, 15.5, 18.5. and then I'll roll that out. So the next thing is to determine the shoulder. The shoulder measurement is 16. 16 divided by 2 is 8 inches. So mark 8 inches here. And then for the neckline, I'll use 4 inches. You can use 3.5, it depends on what you want. And then the neck depth, I also use 4 inches. Square that out, and then I have my neckline for the yoke. On this shoulder here, I'll come down by 1 inch, so we can have our shoulder slant. And then I'll take the armhole depth, which is 8 inches. In this line, I'll also mark out the shoulder divided by 2, which is also 8 inches. I'll connect this point to this point. I'll get the main point. For the front armhole, come in by ½ inch. This now becomes the chest line. This is the chest line. I'll just show you how to draw the front armhole. But first of all, get the bust divided by 4 and repeat it here so I can get our armhole length. The bust is 40 divided by 4. So for the back armhole, we use this place. But it will start from here and come here. But for the front armhole, to start from here, I'll go through here to here. So the back starts from here through here. So this is the front. So this is for the back. and this is for the front. I'm just labeling it for the sake of our beginners. So let's just label the lines we have. Here is the chest line, here is the bust line, here is the under bust, and here is the waistline. And then for this is the part of the front we'll be using for the backs. Just ignore here. So the next thing we want to do now is to impute our nipple to nipple point, which is 4 inches. That is 8 divided by 2, making 4. Now, if you can add seam allowance to it, so you can have 4.5 half-inch seam allowance. If you are adding seam allowance, then you mark. If you are not adding seam allowance, you just mark the exact that you have, and then when you are cutting on your fabric, you can now add the seam allowance to your pattern. Okay, so assuming we don't want to add the seam allowance, you will just mark 4. Mark it on the bust line, on the under bust, on the waist. Connect all the lines together, and then we are going to determine the neckline, the neck depth of the yoke. Let me just realign here so you can see it. Here is the shoulder, and here is the neck. So you determine the length of the neckline, of how long the yoke is going to be. So I'll take 7 inches. So this totally depends on you, what you want. If you want the bust to show more, you can come down by 8, or you can use this chest line. So it totally depends on you. And then this dark line, I'm going to extend it up, so I will remark the 4 inches here. So far this is the line. The next thing I want to do is to determine the neckline of this, the neckline we want for the corset. Do you want a straight line, or you want a sweetheart neckline? If you want a sweetheart neckline, on these 7 inches, you come down by 1 inch or ½ inch, so that you'll be able to draw the curve. So let's say half. This is the gap between the bust. We want it to be 1 inch. So half paper is unfold, that will be half. So this half, by the time we open it, to be 1 inch. If you want yours to be wider, you can do 0.75. So I also mark the ½ inch here and just connect it to this point here. And then I can connect here to, I can connect it to the neckline. Okay, I can do it now or take the dart first. Okay, so on this bust area, we want the bust to be free, so come down by ½ inch also go by ½ inch so that there will be freeness here. And then on this underbust, we're going to be taking a dart of 1 inch on both sides. So this depends on how busty you are or your client is a very big bust. You can take 1 inch here and take 1.5 here. Smaller bust, you can take 0.75, 0.75. We'll repeat the same at the waistline, the same 1 inch, 1 inch. So I'll connect this with a straight line like this. So this is the dark line that we marked earlier. So the next thing we want to do now is to create a curve. We want to create our curve now. We'll create a curve from the underbust towards the bust point, but we will not get to this place. We will stop ½ inch below. Like so. We'll do same here. So we come to this upper part. We also, the same thing we did here, we also repeat it here. We'll take a dart of 1 inch on both sides. We use our curve ruler. We'll not get to, we'll stop ½ inch before those bust points here. So that was the essence of marking here. We'll repeat safely. So the next thing now, is to connect this to here. There's the neckline that we want. We use the curvy parts and do this. So we also connect here to this armhole point here. Now we'll come down here by ½ inch. These 2 inches dots that we took here, we need to add it back and recreate the armhole. 2 inches, add it back to this line. And from there we create the so it's the same with adding 2 inches here. So this becomes the new So this is not the one we are using, this one. And then for this we are using this. So let's complete our cup here. We'll join here to this bust point here. So you can connect it all the way to meet here. So we have formed the cup here, so we will also need to form the cup here. So we determine the length of the distance between the bust and the under bust. The distance between the bust and the under bust is 4 inches. So you mark the 4 inches. So this is 4 inches. Sorry, the camera went off. So for a 3-piece corset, I was saying it was a 2-piece corset. Here is 1, here is 2. For a 3-piece corset, we are going to create how the curve is going to be here. So let's see what we have here. We have 2.5 inches here. So you can decide to mark it at the 2.5, and then mark here also 2.5, and then mark the middle here 3 inches, or you make here 3 inches, make here 3 inches, and then make this place 3.5 inches. So it depends on the shape that you want. Sorry, so on this side I'm going to come down by 3 inches, like from this angle here. And then from here I also come down by 3 inches. That lines I'll come down by 3.5. I'll use my French cuff to connect it. And connect here to here. I'll also connect this to this. So this part will be our 1. After cutting it, we are going to join here together to become 1. So let me call it 1A, 1B, and then here is 2, and then here is 3. So we are going to be cutting here out. We'll be cutting here out. So if we're just to be the regular corset with yoke, you stop at this waistline. But if you want yours to have a basque, then you continue. This waist is 18.5. You can decide to extend this waist down by say 2 inches, and then you can increase this side with say 5 or 6, depending on how you want the bags to be. So let's say 5 will be here. In that case, you extend this line down. So the bags you want, if it is a straight one, then you just draw a straight line from here to the new waistline that you have created, like this. Sorry, I don't have much paper here. And then if it is the other type, the curvy type, then you want to extend here, like say 1 inch or ½ inch. For example, you extend here by say 1 inch or ½ inch, and then you now use this curvy ruler to connect it. Now connect from here to here. Okay, so be on the safe side. Before you cut out the bags, join these two sides together. Join it together first. Here is the center front. Here is the center front, and here is the side front. So to have a perfect bags, join the side front and the center front. Join it together first. And remember, when you are joining, if you are sewing, you add ½ inch. If you are not sewing, you just bring both of them close. I'll show you what I mean by close after cutting out the pattern. So the next thing you want to do now is just to impute our measurement on the bust line. The bust is 40 divided by 4 is 10. That is 10. And then we'll add sewing allowance. Let's say 2 inches. Your sewing allowance depends on you. You can always, it's better to have surplus than shortage, so you can always trim it out later. The under bust is 33, which is 8.25. Then we add this dart, 2 inches, and also sewing allowance. So I'll just leave the space like that. And then the waistline. The waistline, that means you will be imputing the waistline here. Okay, or okay, let's just impute it here since we have no space here. The waist is 35, which is 8.75. 8.75 plus these 2 inches, and then plus the same allowance. So we are through it. We are through with the pattern. So right now, this is 10 inches here. So I'll just mark what we have without the same allowance. Let's see, from here to here. Okay, and then from the other bust, 8.25 plus this dart that we have taken. The waist 8.75 plus the dart. So this is the actual measurement. Then we'll now add seam allowance here. Okay, so for the back pattern, I'm going to be explaining the corset part of it, okay, because of the paper. So you want to make sure that the side that they align, that this side here aligns with where you are going to end. No, we will extend down 2 inches. You want to make sure that it aligns from here to here. So this is the length of the side from here to here. Okay. And then I've already shown you how to cut the armhole. So this is how a back bodice pattern look like. Okay, so a bodice pattern, this is a bodice pattern for both the front and the back. So if you want to draft yours, you want to start with the neckline. The neckline here, it depends on you. If you want, for the yoke, you can just use 1.5 for the yoke, and then you determine the length of the yoke, if you want 8 inches or if you want 9 inches, or you want it to stop where this one stops. In that case, the chest line, that means it will be 9 inches. So this part, let me cut it. So what we have here now is from the chest line for the corset. So this is the part we have. So if you want to do your own yoke, so if you want, so this part now is the chest. Okay, look at it, the chest. So for yours, for the back, here can be the yoke. These parts that I've marked at 1.5, I marked at 1.5 and connected with the same neck width of 4 inches. So for yours, here is 4 inches. You mark it out. This is for the back, and then this is the back armhole. This first one is the back armhole, and then this is the yoke. It means that for the back, the yoke will stop at the chest line. Then you can always determine how you want the yoke to be. If you also want a keyhole neckline on the yoke at the back, you can create it. You can create it. Okay, so depending on you. So now let's concentrate with this. Now if you want a zipper, you put your zipper allowance of say 1 inch. Mark it all the way down. But I don't want a zipper. If it is the one that you are going to lace, then you do not need a zipper. Okay, so assuming this is without zipper, the next thing we are going to do is to put in our dart. The dart is 4 inches. 4 inches all the way down. So let me mark out this line. This is our chest line. This is our bust line here. Under bust, we don't need under bust. And then this is our waistline. This is the bust line. This part, this beginning is our chest line. Okay. So on this chest line, you come down by 1 inch for the dart. That's where the dart will start from. At the waistline, you take ½ inch on both sides. Then you connect like a triangle. You connect like this. So we are going to be cutting here out. So if it is a lace that you want, you determine how open you want the lacing to be. So let's say you want yours to be 1.5. That means if this is on 4, when you open it, it will be 3 inches. You just mark 1.5. 1.5. So it means that you are going to be cutting here out. It means you are going to be cutting it out. Okay, and then you are going to be having either eyelets. It's either you have eyelets or you have loops. Depends on you or what you want. So this our on this our chest line, we just impute the bust measurement. Oh, sorry, on this bust line, our bust is 10 inches. we are short of paper, but just know that the bust is 10 inches. So I've added some paper to that. So add the bust to get the correct measurement. Remember that this part is part of the bust, so let's just take it first before we fold the paper, so that you don't mix it up from here. Mark 10 inches. Okay, and then the waist 8.75. The 1 inch dart, 1 inch. So connect that together, and then you can now add your seam allowance. You can now add your seam allowance. Let's say 2 inches. Just add seam allowance all through. So get your measurement first before you subtract this one and the other that you are going to use for the lacing. Okay, and then you can cut out the back dart, or you simply fold it in when it's time to sew. You simply fold it in like this and sew. So I won't be cutting this out, I'll just leave it like this. Okay, but the major emphasis is this front pattern. I'll cut out my front pattern. For the yoke, this is where I'm going to follow so I'll just leave here. I'll cut out this back pattern. And remember the 1/2 inch seam allowance at the top, so you don't reduce your armhole length. So I'm going to cut out only the back pattern first. So after you have used this to cut out the yoke for the back, then you can now recut the armhole and then recut the neckline. Okay, so I'll be leaving this like this. So this middle part, you have to be careful so you don't cut out what you need. Let's cut out the center front first. So this is our center front without seam allowance. So if you want to place this on your pattern, remember to add seam allowance when you are going to sew it. And use pin to hold the tops together. So try not to have any sharp points like this. Make sure you blend it out. It's supposed to be a curve. I'm going to cut this. Just take your time so that you don't make mistake. So this is 2, this is 3, this is 1. So I'll just leave this like this, because you're supposed to, you're supposed to have a seam allowance. So let's just leave this like this. So if you don't want to add seam allowance to this middle, you want this center front and this one to be as one piece, then you join it together like this. You join your pattern together first. You can use a masking tape or a cello tape to hold it down. After joining together like this, you can now add your backs. So if you don't want to sew, you want this to be one piece, join it together like this without adding seam allowance. Just put 2 of them together, use a tape to hold it together, and then now place this on your pattern and cut out. Then for the backs effect that you want, after joining like this, then you can now use connect here to here. Sorry, I didn't realize that the camera has stopped. So if you want center front and side front as one piece, you put them together. After cutting out the dart, use a tape to hold them together like this, and then cut your back's waistline. Okay, so after you have cut the back waistline, it is this one you will now place on your fabric. Okay, so when you place it on your fabric, remember to add ½ inch around this cup area. That is the sewing allowance. Add ½ inch around here. Then remember to add your seam allowance at the side. Also add seam allowance here. Then this is the 1 piece, this is the 2 piece, this is 3 piece. So remember that there is a dart here. We'll cut it and join it. We join it back together like this. It doesn't need to overlap. Now I'm going to cut here out. This is what I mean. So that was why I just simply place it on top, assuming we've cut here out like this. So use your tape to hold it down. So this is now your number 1. Okay, this is 2 and this is 3. So it is this one now you place on your fabric. So you are placing it on your fabric. So this is what we have. That 2, that 1A and 1B, you place it on another paper. Okay, and then you cannot have this rough like this, so you want to align it with your French curve properly, making sure that it is in one piece. And then the difference that we have here, put it up. Okay, so you just measure what you have here and replace it here, so that this curve will now be complete. And then you put your French curve like this and draw. So I'll just cut out what you have now. So we have used this to now replace this. So this now becomes our number 1. So we don't need this anymore. We have used it to replace it. This part that was cut out, we use it to replace this upper part. You see it? Can you see it? Because it must be complete. Remember that here was 3 inches and the middle was 3.5. Okay, so let's use that as your guide. So this is now number 1, and then this is number 2, and this is number 3. You see it? You see that? 1, 2, 3. So you can now use this now to cut out your pattern. So after sewing it to enter. Remember that we have drained here, so that is why it's a bit tight, but it will fit in after sewing. So this is what we have, and then this is our back pattern. So I got to the end of this tutorial. Sorry, my camera kept stopping, I don't know why. So I hope you're able to view all the parts. So I'm still your girl G Joy. If you are not yet subscribed to this channel, like I always say, please subscribe to my channel so that you'll be notified each time I make a new video. And if you are a returning subscriber, thank you for subscribing and for supporting this channel. Until next time, remain blessed. I'll see you again in another video.